OK, Brexit next. The Prime Minister has set out her vision for the road to Brexit in a number of speeches over the next few weeks. Theresa May and senior members of her cabinet will deliver speeches in an attempt to answer critics who say the government has been too vague. They're expected to cover the areas of security, the devolution of powers, workers' rights and trade. So let's speak to Emma Burnell, who's a Remainer freelance journalist. Emma, good evening to you.
Good evening.
Hello there. And Jonathan Isaby, the editor of Brexit Central. It's a pro-leave news website. Hello, Jonathan.
Good evening, Stephen.
Good evening. Well, the road to Brexit, Emma, Theresa May's going to set it out if she knows what it is herself, of course.
Well, that's the big question. The second big question. The first is, why on earth didn't we do this at least a year ago? Messing around when we're on the clock like this is not good for anyone. Whether you're pro-leave or pro-remain, everybody must be feeling incredibly frustrated. I'm sure Jonathan feels as frustrated as I do, not knowing what the hell Brexit means beyond Brexit means Brexit, which is a meaningless cliche.
Well, are you as frustrated and as confused, Jonathan? Or I'm presuming you know exactly what it means or what you want it to be.
Well, I look at what Theresa May said in the Lancaster House speech, the Florence speech last year, where she set out a broad vision of what Brexit is all about, which is having a friendly relationship with the European Union, but having that clean break from our membership of the EU, which does mean coming out of the customs union, the single market, jurisdiction of the ECJ, and so on and so forth. And obviously over the last year or so, the government behind the scenes has been doing a lot of work pulling together exactly what will be entailed in Brexit. And, we will hear some of this over the coming weeks, although at the same time, there is a negotiation going on, and you can't expect the government to give away every part of its negotiating hand by giving that kind of running commentary on everything before that negotiation is concluded.
Go on, Emma.
I'm not being funny, but I've worked in negotiation. Negotiation doesn't work like some Mexican standoff. Actually, good negotiation works when both parties are very clear about what the other side truly wants, what its red lines truly are, and then finds the space between the two that keeps all parties happy. Very few people in any sort of real negotiation treat it like a zero-sum game, and anybody who does tends to lose out.
Did you listen to the Lancaster House speech last year, Emma?
I listened to it. Vague platitudes, some ideas, no sense of how any of it actually fits together. For example, we won't have a border in Northern Ireland, but we won't be in the customs union. Well, that's lovely. How does that work? Tell me how that works, and I'll give you a cookie.
There was actually a very good report by the European Parliament last year with some very sensible ideas as to how that will work. And my colleague at Brexit Central, Hugh Bennett, wrote a very detailed analysis of all of those issues just last week, which I'd encourage you to read. Look, I'm going back to what you said originally, I'm certainly a little frustrated at the speed at which this is happening. And I suspect the country is too, but dare I say it, the wheels do turn more slowly than one would like inside the Whitehall machine. But dare I say it, some of the pace has been affected by the fact that week in, week out, there have been attempts by certain political figures to frustrate the entire process. And what I would wish is that...
Well, yeah, we should let Boris have no part of it, that's true.
I would wish that the minority of figures who want to ignore the result of the referendum and try and stop Brexit happening altogether would actually get behind the efforts to ensure that the best possible Brexit deal is achieved. Because actually, and I think you're going to hear this over the coming days, particularly from Boris Johnson on Wednesday, that there are huge benefits of Brexit, there are huge opportunities.
But what do we definitely know, Jonathan? So what do we know definitely the benefits are going to be, for example, on trade? For example, on workers' rights?
Well, on workers' rights, nothing is changing. The government has made utterly clear it's not going to diminish workers' rights.
What do we definitely know about trade? We're a year in.
We are going to be able to negotiate our own trade deals with every country in the world as an independent member of the World Trade Organization. We will be no longer subject to the protectionist racket that is the customs union, which basically subsidizes French farmers and others across the European Union, and in turn makes it far harder for people in developing countries to export into the European Union.
We did not vote to leave the customs union. We voted. Jonathan, please, let's try and be reasonable here. The argument we had again and again during the referendum campaign was about freedom of movement. That was what was raised on the doorsteps. That was what was raised on the telly. Now, I don't want us to leave the European Union at all. I don't want us to leave the single market. But I accept that that's what has to happen before I can start campaigning for us to go back in, which I will. But I accept that as a part of that democratic decision, that's what has to happen. But I do not accept that we voted to leave the customs union. I don't think the vast majority of people in this country had the first clue what the customs union was or what it did or care about it at all. If you want a non-frustrating deal that makes the vast majority of people in this country...
Well, you say you don't believe people care about the... You say you don't believe, Emma, people...
Why don't you actually compromise?
Emma, you say people don't care about the customs union. You don't think they watched the news before they voted? You don't think they read into it before they voted? They voted blindly, did they?
No, they didn't vote blindly. They were told a million different things by a million different people. I absolutely accept that one of the key messages that got through was we can control our own borders, that's a single market, in terms of immigration. I don't personally want to do that, but I accept that I've democratically lost that fight. I do not think that the customs union was what the people were voting on. It was hardly raised in the campaign, hardly raised at all. People don't understand it. I mean, it's not part of what we were fighting over. And I just think if you've got a referendum result as close as 48-52 and there are different flavours of Brexit, why not choose one that is actually a better compromise between the two different sides and try to bring this country back together? And I would accept that we weren't in the single market if you would accept that the customs union is the better way to go.
People were entirely clear during the referendum we would be leaving the customs union because we talked in terms... No, we talked in terms of doing trade deals, our own trade deals around the world, which you cannot do at the moment because we have ceded trade policy entirely to the European Union. And it was clear we were going to leave the customs union in order to do that. Indeed, obviously the Conservative manifesto made that clear last year, but also the Labour Party manifesto last year talked in terms of the kind of trade deals that a future Labour government would do, again, which it could not do if we were in the customs union.
Well, I'm not here to defend the Labour Party's appalling stance on Brexit. I'm here to stand up for what I think is right for the whole country. And
between the Conservative and Labour Party, 85% of people voted for them at the election last year.
A moderate compromiser here. I'm trying to find a place that can bring the country, which is very divided, back together. I'm a staunch Remainer. You will never get me to accept that Brexit was the right idea. But I do think that there is a space where people who sit on the spectrum between your extreme and mine, where we can actually come together and have a place that keeps people a bit happier. And I believe that is probably leaving the single market but staying in the customs union. And I don't see what's so unreasonable about trying to find that compromise rather than both of us running to our extremes.
You're suggesting a half-in, half-out solution which leaves the United Kingdom completely powerless to negotiate trade deals with third countries and ceding that power to an EU over which we would have no influence.
It leaves us not poorer. It leaves the people I care about not poorer. How is that not a better thing? I've seen the analysis. You've seen the analysis. If you want me to believe the government are doing a good job, then I have to believe the figures the government are showing me about leaving the customs union.
We are not poorer as a result of our vote to leave the European Union. Growth has continued every single quarter since.
Okay, now one at a time. Hold on.
And every projection the government has put forward shows growth continuing over the coming months and years.